The profit in dollars made by selling X t-shirts is given by this polynomial, and we have a restriction on the domain between 0 and 15. Find the number of shirts that need to be sold to maximize profit. Okay, let's think about what we've got going on here. We have X for our variable, our independent variable, and we have capital P standing for profit for our function. And if we look at this function, negative 2x squared plus 28x minus 26, we recognize that as a quadratic function. Because the x squared has a negative on the coefficient, we know it is a parabola that opens down. So it looks something like this. And so if we're interested in, if this is graphing profit, capital P, if we're interested in maximizing profit, then we would want to know the function value of the vertex, because the vertex is the maximum that this function goes. Now, in a similar but little different sense, if this asked us to minimize, maybe we had a parabolic function and we were trying to minimize costs of something, it would have a positive coefficient and it would open up, and the minimum would occur again at the function value of the vertex. So if we want, they're called optimization problems, if we want to know the maximum it could be or the minimum it could be, we're looking for the vertex, because that would give us that. So in this particular one, it opened down and we're trying to maximize, so we'd want to know, it says find the number of shirts that need to be sold to maximize the profit. So that would be the x value of the vertex, because the vertex is x, which is the number of t-shirts, and then P of x, the profit, would be the y value there. So we need the x value of the vertex. And so how do we find that? Well, x equal negative b over 2a. So the x value of the vertex is going to be negative, b is right up here, 28, over 2 times a, and a is right here, negative 2. So we got negative 28 over negative 4, which is 7. So for this model, the number of shirts that need to be sold to maximize profit would be 7. So 7 shirts. Okay, now if we want to look at part B, find the maximum profit. So now we know the maximum profit comes when they sell 7 shirts, but to find that we would substitute the 7 in the function. So I've got negative 2 times 7 squared plus 28 times 7 minus 26. So that's going to be, looks like negative 98 plus 196 minus 26, and that's 72. So the maximum profit is $72. Now let's go ahead and look at part C. Find and interpret the zeros of this polynomial. So finding the zeros means to find out where this polynomial equals 0, and then we will interpret what that means. So let's go ahead and take our polynomial function, negative 2x squared plus 28x minus 26 equals 0. There's a negative 2 in common. I'm going to factor that out, so that will make that a negative 14x and make that a positive 13 equals 0. So I can see that factors, 2 sets of parentheses, equals 0. So that's going to be x and x to get a positive end but negative middle. They both need to be negative, 1 and 13. So our two zeros of this polynomial are x equal 1 and x equal 13. Now, what does that mean? Well, if we're back here looking on the graph, the zeros would be right here. This would be 1 and this would be 13. And our function is defined between 0 and 15. So The 1 and 13 would be the break-even point, and if you went below that, then you'd be losing money. Your costs would be more than the money that you were bringing in. So the zeros here are the break-even point, and if you are in between the 1 and the 13, you have a profit, and if you're outside of that, we're below the x-axis and you would be losing money.